Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for being here midway through the week. I'm Samantha Russell from 20 over 10, and we're so excited to have you join us today to answer the question, so you got a lead, now what? It's a question a lot of people ask, and for good reason. Getting the lead seems like the hardest part, but honestly, after you get someone's name, often the hardest part is actually converting them to a booked meeting and then a client. So we're so excited because we are really going to dive into talking about how to create a process to move somebody through a sales process so that you can really convert the largest amount of your pipeline. We have a few housekeeping items that we want to take care of. To start, I'm going to go ahead and launch a poll. And as I'm doing that, if you could just take a minute as you're all coming in today and answer that question for us. This is going to give us a really great understanding of where you're at, what some of your biggest challenges are, and how we can best help you today. So it will help us determine what to spend the most amount of time on. So please answer that. A few other things as you're doing that. We have two ways for you to get in touch with our team today. So in the background, we have Amanda Larson as always, and Amanda is able to answer any questions in the chat box or in the Q&A box. So if you put something in the chat box, everybody on the line today will be able to see it and interact with it. If you have a specific question you only want me, Amanda, or our guest Shauna, who I'm excited to introduce to you all, to see, you'll put that in the Q&A box, and then we will only be able to see it as the panelist. So those are your two options. But this session is being recorded, and you will get the recording and all of the slides. And then, of course, those awesome giveaways that Shauna has prepared, which includes a really great template to create your own sales process, as well as a template of a series of templated emails you can send to drip on people after you get their contact information, which I know so many of you want. So it looks like just about everybody's done answering the poll, or everybody that's going to answer it. So I'll go ahead and share these results with you. And so the question was, what do you find most challenging once you get a lead? And we had multiple choice here, but it looks like the number one challenge was how to communicate your services and your value effectively. And then the second most popular was keeping that prospect engaged. So I'm glad to see that those were some of the challenges, because we have a lot of material planned on those two areas. So I will stop sharing that one, and just get out of here for a second. And then we have one more quick poll while I'm introducing Shauna for all of you to answer, which is just wondering what kind of technology that you're using. Are you using a technology tool like a CRM or a marketing platform like Lead Pilot or HubSpot? I know that these are two different tools, but yes, even if it's just one or the other, it doesn't have to be both. We would love to hear what kind of tech you're using, because a lot of the tips we're going to share today do talk about how to systemize these processes, and having great technology will really help make a difference. So if you're not familiar with Lead Pilot, it is one of 20 over 10's newest tools that we launched at the beginning of this year. Seems like a lifetime ago. February seems like a lifetime ago, but we launched it in February, and so that is what we're talking about here. So I'm going to end that poll, and yes, 73% of you are using some sort of tech, which is awesome. So thank you everyone who answered these poll questions, and now we can go ahead and get started. So you got a lead, now what? I'll quickly introduce myself, and then Shauna. So Shauna, if you can go to the next slide. For those of you that have come to many of our sessions before, you know me, you hear me every month. I'm Samantha Russell, and I serve as our Chief Marketing and Business Development Officer here at 20 over 10. If you haven't connected with me on LinkedIn or Twitter, I would love to connect with you there. Every single week we share great tips, practical advice, quick marketing, tricks or hacks that you can use, as well as lots of freebies like checklists and templates. So be sure to connect with us there. And if you have any questions after today's session is over, that's where you can email us, marketing@20over10.com. But thank you for being here. And now I want to introduce Shauna. So Shauna is going to be the one really teaching us, and I'm going to be asking lots of questions. But Shauna, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Awesome. Thanks, Samantha. Yeah, I'm really excited to be here. So I am a growth consultant coach, really an advisor to advisors. So I have learned over the last 15 years in this industry that we tend to overcomplicate growth and overcomplicate sales. And so I love helping clients kind of get clear and simplify what they're doing to grow by understanding their business, creating really actionable plans, and then providing tools, mindset, and implementation support to help them make progress towards those goals. And I'm really excited about the pipeline presentation that we have talking about sales process, because I am lucky to have a pretty unique background in that. Over the last 15 years, I spent half of my time at an RIA firm and the other half at a $23 billion asset manager. And what I learned, obviously kind of the ins and outs of the RIA space, but what I also learned at the asset manager is that there's a lot of best practices, tools, very intentional processes that large organizations like PIMCO, BlackRock, Legg Mason, these large sales organizations are using that a lot of advisors aren't using to help grow their business. And of course, you may not have the same resources as those large firms, but a lot of the tools and the best practices can be simplified and can be implemented into your business. And so I'm really excited to share how to do that today.
And we're getting some great love in the chat box. Vincent Barbara is saying that he highly recommends you. So everybody listen to him. And
Thank
by
you,
the
Vince.
end of today's session, you're going to see why. So let's go ahead and jump right in. Shauna, take it away.
Awesome. So really, sales success, what does it require? It requires, two things, not all those things. It requires two things. It requires persistent connection. And when we think about sales, it's really the art and the science of sales. And so the art is the connection, right? Most of us, I'm guessing a lot of us on the line may not consider ourselves natural born salespeople. And, that's okay. I think what we're going to focus on today is really around the persistence, around how being persistent in a really value add way can drive a lot of success when it comes to growth and it comes to sales. So that's where we're going to focus our attention. But if there's one thing you take away from this entire conversation, it's just the importance of intentional activity and intentional process when it comes to moving someone from lead to client. Okay, so this is the agenda. We're going to talk about the benefits, so why sales process matters, and what you should expect as far as if you implement a sales process, the components. So really taking a look at the buying decision, like putting ourselves in a buyer's shoes and how we can use a process to help move them through their buying decision journey. And then the bulk of the conversation is going to be step by step into how you can build a pipeline, which is a sales process for selling or moving someone from lead to client, how you can implement that into your business. Okay, so the benefits. So who doesn't want shortened sales cycle, increased conversion rate, more efficiency, a better experience? Really, who doesn't want to grow intentionally? I mean, these are all things I think that we all want in our businesses. And these are some of the benefits of sales process. I think to really drive home this point, I want to share a story. And it comes from my days at the asset manager, because I think there's a lot of relevance to you as small business owners. So when I was at FS Investments, which was the asset management firm where I worked in some sales and marketing roles, at one point I was running a team, a sales strategy and analytics team that supported up to 30 territories. So we think about these territories, they were essentially small businesses, and they were small businesses with 2 to 3 people running these businesses. And there was one territory in particular, one person, his name was Bobby. And Bobby, his territory was San Antonio and Austin, Texas. And what was unique about Bobby was that he came off the sales desk. He was a really young guy. He was great at sales, of course, like everyone was there in that role. But what was unique about Bobby is that he was consistently the top salesperson at the firm year over year. And he was not just able to generate a lot of sales, but it was very consistent throughout the year. And everyone wanted to know what was the secret. And of course, I had a relationship with him and we talk about his business. and we would talk about his pipeline and forecasting, and he wasn't doing anything really different from everyone else. And of course, I'm an analytical person, so I decided to dig into the data to understand how is he generating like these multi-million-dollar new clients and relationships. How is he doing this consistently over and over again and exceeding his sales goals every year? And so when I dug into the data, what I found was a really interesting story. So what I found is Bobby wasn't doing more activity than anyone else. In fact, he was doing, in many cases, less activity than his peers. But the activity he was doing was incredibly focused and incredibly intentional. So you could see of the activity he did with these large firms that ended up investing with him, it was 3 to 5 times the volume of his peers. And it wasn't just quantity, it was also quality. So he had a game plan with his internal on what resources to use and on who was going to follow up and what the follow-up was going to look like and what people he was going to bring in and the story they were going to tell. He really and truly managed his business with pipeline. He also happened to be the person who had the best pull-through rate in his pipeline. No one's going to have 100% pull-through rate, but he tended to be in the 70 to 80%, which is really good. So as a business owner, if you want to differentiate yourself, if you want to kind of get the benefits of having an intentional process, if you want to be like Bobby, I think this is something that really anyone can do, and it can have a huge impact on your business. So hopefully that inspires you to think about how to integrate pipeline into your business.
It's a great story. Good way to kick us off. Now we want to hear how he did it with some of your secrets.
Yes, yeah. So to lay the foundation or the context into like why this matters, let's think about, I want to give the context around sales process. So there's 4 components of sales process. There's marketing, there's selling, there's service, and there's feedback. And so what matters is to think about how this fits in to a buyer's decision-making process. We really got to put ourselves in their shoes. That's how you build a great process, is understanding how to put yourself in their shoes and help keep momentum and continue to help them make progress. So the first component is marketing, right? So 20 over 10, they're amazing marketers, and Samantha's going to share some of what they can do to help you get the lead. But why do we market? So we market obviously to gain awareness, so to get leads. We market to deepen relationships with our clients. We market to help move people through some consideration. Typically, anywhere from 50 to 80%. And Samantha, you may have some other stats here, but anywhere from 50 to 80% of the decision making is, or at least consideration process is done before you even talk to somebody. And so how you show up and how you market, and especially in today's digital world, is incredibly important in your ability to not just generate the lead, but actually move them to client. And I am incredibly impressed with Lead Pilot product. I've seen this in action. I know Samantha's going to talk about it a little bit. If you are looking to generate leads, if you are looking to do marketing, and you haven't at least looked at the product, I would highly recommend it. I've seen lots of marketing platforms, and I haven't seen a product built for advisors that truly is a one-stop shop, that really has a deep content library that I think the differentiator, at least in my perspective, is you customize the content, and you're going to see why that really matters as we talk around your pipeline. But Samantha, I'll give you a chance to talk more about 20 over 10 and Lead Pilot.
And if anybody wants to stay on till the end, I don't want to interrupt the flow. We had talked about maybe showing you some more about this now, but anybody who wants to stay on and learn more about how we help with the awareness and the consideration stage, towards the end, we can show a quick sneak peek, a couple minutes of how that works. But as you know, Shauna said, so much of the decision-making happens before you ever get a chance to talk to someone. So what we see our role is yes, building awareness for your firm, but also letting you even be in the running, right? You even get to show up on the starting line and be part of that race and not be immediately considered not as an option because you don't impress somebody when they go to your website or when they're looking on your social media posts, or they're just not aware of you at all because they're aware of all these other advisors who are where they are, which is online. And so Lead Pilot really is built as an extension of 20 over 10 websites. So you have your website, and whether you're using Lead Pilot or another tool, what you want to think about is you're going to have your website, and then you're going to have your emails that you're sending. You're going to have videos that you're posting. You're going to maybe have a podcast or blogging, all of those other activities that are going to help people see your value and your expertise from a distance, right? They could, without ever having to talk to you on the phone, they're starting to get a sense of what you can help them with. And so that's where those tools become crucially important. So again, if you want to learn more about that, stay towards the end and we can talk more about it. I was surprised to see that of the, we have a very good number of people on the line today, but a good number of you are not using, from what we asked ahead of time, Lead Pilot or HubSpot or any other tools to help with the awareness and consideration phase. So if you want to learn more about that, again, you can just hang on. But that is how the awareness and the consideration then lead into the selling. We can also, with the Lead Pilot tool, help you to automate some of your follow-up messages. And we have more capabilities that I'd be happy to share with you again at the end of the call coming out here, including some really great sales email templates. So once you have a lead, you can drip on them, and we have some really great new functionality coming out. But Shauna, I'll let you go into the next angle there of your triangle. And again, if you want to stay on or you have questions about these tools, you can chat them and Amanda can answer as we continue on.
Great. Yeah. And it's interesting because the poll, I know people said that they're really challenged with communicating their value and also keeping engaged. And I think being able to have, and we'll talk about how this plays out in the pipeline process, but at all points in the process, you know, having a place to manage your messaging and manage your communication and email campaigns and all of these tools really enhance your ability to move people down this decision-making process. So it's a powerful tool to at least to consider. Okay, so the next part of sales process is sales. So this is where you're moving someone from lead to client. And this is where we're going to talk about how pipeline is a tool to help you quarterback that process. So finish the consideration, help people identify, you know, how you can help serve them and meet their needs, and then ultimately, hopefully make a decision to become a client. And then the final actual stage in a sales process is service. And this is, I actually just wrote about this in the last couple of weeks. This is a really important because, you know, once you do actually convert someone to client, that first month, quarter, year is so important in making progress towards building a loyal relationship, advocacy, ultimately referrals, which are, you know, I know are for a lot of you may be a big part of your business growth. But I would challenge you, if you think about, if you consider service part of your differentiation, I would challenge you to define what that means to you. So if you provide great service, what does that mean? And we're going to walk through how you outline your pipeline process, but you can use the tools and the framework that we provide for pipeline to also start to think about how to build out a client service model, which can help you build advocacy and ultimately support referrals. Okay, so let's jump into pipeline. So why pipeline? Why is this a tool? It's a tool that all asset management managers use, all sales organizations use. And the reason they use it is because it helps you understand where someone is in the decision-making process. And the reason that matters is it helps you act intentionally. So we're going to talk about building out a process. So how do you capture your process so that you're not having to do it manually? I saw a question around having, you know, limited resources, and maybe you are a solopreneur, maybe you are one or two people. So how do we start to gain efficiency and use tools outside of just your time and energy? And pipeline's one way to do it, but it helps you act very much as a quarterback. And when you're making decisions, especially amidst, you know, today's world of uncertainty, it's really important to continue to act as a quarterback and reduce friction and to provide value along the way so that the decision-making process, it's not just they rationally buy in, but they also emotionally buy in. They feel trust, there's a rapport, and they want to work with you. And the last reason, and we'll talk about this more at the end, but the last reason pipeline is so important is that it helps you gather really important information and data for your business. So imagine if you gather the information, we'll talk more about it later, but imagine being able to forecast sales for your business or assets for your business over the next year. And imagine being able to start to think about in advance, like, we really need to consider hiring a new person, a new planner, a new admin, a new advisor, or implementing a new technology, and having some confidence that you're going to be at a place in a year or in 6 months where that would make a lot of sense for your business. That's an example of how pipeline can help provide valuable feedback to your business. Okay, so how do we do it? But before, I don't know if there's any questions before I jump into the how. Canadian experience, I do not have Canadian experience. If there's anything else, Amanda, don't hesitate to stop me. But okay, let's jump in. I don't see any other questions. So how to build and use pipeline. So the first component is to define your stages. So I recommend keeping it simple. I would not have more than 4 or 5 stages. And I recommend these 4 stages of unqualified lead, qualified lead, proposal sent, and then proposal accepted and rejected. Now, you may use a CRM if you use Wealthbox, Redtail, Salesforce, Juncture, for example. They all have pipeline built into the CRM. They call it Opportunity. And if you have a CRM already with pipeline or Opportunity built in, I would use the names that they have. I wouldn't reinvent the wheel. But you get the general idea that these stages, unqualified lead, qualified lead, proposal sent, and proposal accepted or rejected, are at a high level. These are you want to understand where someone fits in one of these stages. So what I have on the screen is the pipeline process document that you'll receive after, and you're going to see us essentially build this out, and you can use this after the event to start to build out pipeline for your business.
So just to make sure you guys know, because I know people will ask, we haven't sent this to you yet, so don't be looking for it right now. We're going to send it to you in the follow-up with the email templates and the recording. So this will be coming to your inbox with the recording.
So when you get it, that's okay. When you get it, you'll fill out stage on the left. And I'm going to actually jump in to show you what some of these CRMs, what their pipeline looks like. And I'd be interested to know if anyone is, if you want to put it in the chat. I know that there's over 70% of you are using something, some sort of technology to manage leads. I don't know if anyone's using any of these in particular. I'd be interested to hear, and maybe you share with the other attendees if you're having some success with these. I'm very, very familiar with Salesforce. We used it at FS Investments, and it was an incredibly powerful tool and provided a lot of reporting and feedback for the teams and also for the business. But I want to show you, just to kind of get your eyes on it. If you're using these CRMs, you can start to see they have pipeline, and I would use kind of the out-of-box functionality. Salesforce looks similar to Wealthbox and Juncture. So again, you can build this into your CRM if you're using one of these. And something I would mention is, I know LeadPilot does integrate with Redtail, Wealthbox, and Salesforce if you're using Riskalyze. So again, I know limited time and resources if you're a small business owner. So the more integration that you can use, the better. So keep that in mind.
And just one more point about that, because we get a lot of questions about integrations. Thank you for mentioning that. Yeah, if you are using 20over10's website or LeadPilot, we can set it up so that if somebody is a web to lead, right? So they go to your website and they fill out a form to get an ebook, they can be added to your CRM. And then if they come from LeadPilot, it can be automatically added to your CRM. But then from LeadPilot, if you get a new lead off a landing page, it also can talk both ways. So CRM to our tools to your CRM. And so that's crucially important that you have that two-way sync so that the data stays up to date. We're building out a lot more robust integrations with different vendors. So for instance, that you can do a lot more segmenting and less manual input. So we would love to know I see some people are saying they're using Wealthbox, Redtail. Tell us what CRM you're using. It helps us kind of determine what's most popular, what tools maybe we should prioritize. So we would love to hear from you all on what tools you're using, or if you've had a really great experience or have something people should consider, let us know. Thanks, Shauna.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so step one, you have your stages defined or named. Step two is going to be defining your milestones. So really it's what does success look like at each stage? And this is important, especially if you have a team, but regardless, it's important to understand what success looks like so you can understand when to move stages and also understand what you're trying to accomplish. So if they are at the unqualified lead, you're going to want to understand how do you get them to qualified lead, and there's then things you're going to be doing to try to move them along the sales process. So the idea, I think the sales tip I have here is really, especially in the proposal sent, once you deliver a proposal, once you have captured their needs and you believe that you can serve them, they're the right type of client for you, all of that, just being able to say, I can provide the services that you need or the financial planning or investment support you need, it isn't enough to move someone to act. It really is both a rational and an emotional decision. And so once a proposal is sent, once you deliver or hand that off, there is still a lot of work to be done around bringing it to life, understanding concerns, working through objections, understanding any sort of friction, and helping them really gain rapport and trust with you. And so that's especially in today's COVID world, there's so much uncertainty. I know there's a lot of money in motion and there's a lot of opportunity out there, and there's also a lot of fear. And I think we're all in decision overload. And so the more you can quarterback the process, the more you can really guide it. And so it becomes less of a decision and more of a just next step as far as becoming a client. It's gonna feel a lot less difficult to actually move someone to act.
A question that I've gotten before, and I'd love to hear your take on it, is what makes you label someone as unqualified versus qualified?
It's a great question. So it's going to depend on your business, how you define that. So an example would be, so a couple of things, and we'll talk about it soon. An example would be maybe you have an AUM threshold. Maybe you have a minimum. Maybe you work with a certain type of client. Maybe you specialize in working with doctors. So I would say maybe, definitely you're going to want to work with them, right? You're going to want to believe you can deliver the services they need, and you're going to want to work with them because you like them and there's a rapport. So I would definitely recommend having some basic kind of checklist or qualifications that would either qualify or disqualify them. Because again, if we go back to the Bobby story, he could have spent a lot of time and activity on potential leads that really weren't worth the effort. And instead, he was very focused on the people that had the greatest opportunity and ended up really driving his business. And I would encourage you, again, we all have limited time and resources. I would encourage you, if you are in a place where you can be somewhat selective, I would encourage you to focus on your best opportunities and focus your energy really deeply there.
One quick tip for you all that we can show you at the end when we hop into the tool, but in Lead Pilot, there is a way where you can click on something called Profile Insights. So if someone just gives you their email address, our tool will scrape the web to find any publicly available information about that person. So if you do only work with physicians and you get someone's email address and you have no idea whether they're a physician or not, if they've used that email to sign up for LinkedIn, let's say, we'll pull in any information we can find and show you more information about that person, where they work, their job history, which will help you qualify or disqualify people. So that's a really great, powerful feature, one of my favorite features of the tool. If you're getting an email address from someone who's coming in from any of your marketing and you don't know anything else about them, they should be unqualified until you vet that person. So if you're automating some of these processes, they should come in as unqualified until you can do a little bit of research.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a great point, to be able to qualify someone just using data that you're able to scrape. That is really powerful. Okay, so again, we have this document you're going to get. So you have your stages, you have your milestones. So the example here, the unqualified lead, an example being you have to have a discovery call or meeting to qualify them. You need to complete and potentially collecting and complete a qualification checklist. So there may be some specific attributes that you require or you very strongly want to have in order to consider them as potentially a good client. Okay, so one, you have your stages. Two, you defined what success looks like at each stage. And then three, this is really the bulk of the work around building this out. This is defining your processes is where you're going to start to gain a lot of efficiency. You can start to gain a lot of efficiency. I saw a question around, again, limited resources. This is where you're going to be able to, if you can define a process, you're going to be able to determine, am I going to keep it in-house? Am I going to keep it with me? Am I going to maybe delegate it to someone else on my team? Am I going to outsource it, or am I going to automate it? And automating it, especially using technology, is something that, especially for leads, you certainly should be able to do some of that follow-up work with a tool like Lead Pilot, with an email campaign, with defining workflow in your CRM. So there's certainly, if you can define what it looks like, day 1, they get an email, day 3, they get another email, day 5, they get a third email, like you're going to start to gain a lot of efficiency. The work is going to be building out what that looks like for you. And so I'm going to go through an example of what that could look like. And we'll provide some samples as far as follow-up emails, but you're going to have to decide what that looks like for you. My tip would be timely and persistent follow-up is incredibly helpful in you actually moving someone to engage, initially get that initial first meeting. And so what I recommend is I recommend following up as quickly as possible within 24 hours initially, and having a series of 3 to 5 emails over 2 weeks. But really that first week is crucial. An interesting stat that I was surprised with is that half of salespeople actually only attempt a follow-up one time, which is kind of crazy to me, because if someone is engaging with you and reaching out, whether it's downloading a piece or attending a webinar or maybe engaging with you on social or your website, there clearly is a need there. And so there's no reason why you shouldn't reach out multiple times. I mean, I'm sure in your own life you can think about that, people following up more than once. And my advice would be, and the stats actually say, if you follow up 3 times, you have an 80% chance of connecting. If you follow up 6 times, you have a 90% chance of connecting. So there's really no reason why, you should give up after one attempt. And if you can structure your follow-up in a way, and I'll show you how, this is an example, in a way so that it's not annoying and doesn't feel like you're getting spammed, but in a way that it feels like you're adding value and you're being respectful and you're being relevant. And so again, I will provide these tips and these samples, but we'll walk through it really quickly. So effective follow-up really has 4 components. So why you're following up. So thank you for downloading this piece. What's in it for me? So me being the prospect. So how you can help your elevator pitch. So in this case, we specialize in working with doctors to provide financial planning and investment solutions to help you regain control over your time and financial well-being. So their issue largely is doctors' challenge may be lack of time, lack of control. And so being very clear about how you help solve those needs. This is incredibly important, having a clear next step and call to action, the call to action being to schedule time with you. Again, it's all about reducing friction. It's all about making it easy for them to take a next step. And so having a scheduling, automated online scheduling app or tool you use is going to be helpful in making it easier for them to schedule with you. And then, they may not be ready to schedule, and that's okay, because you're going to follow up more than once. And so when you do, continuing to add value, and it doesn't mean you need to have 1,000 pieces of content, but it is important to have, a handful of pieces of really valuable content. So it gives them an opportunity to continue to stay engaged with you and can feel like they're not just spamming me and wanting to book a meeting. They're continuing to prove to me that they have value to add.
I wanted just to mention in that last example you gave too, which these are some of these actual templates that we're going to give you, but in that problem solution format she mentioned, if you've been listening to, all of our webinars and content, you'll know that this is one of the key reasons why what you have on your website and what you put in your social media, having that core problem solution elevator pitch is so crucially important. It's just not in your marketing, it's going to be consistent throughout the whole entire selling process. So someone's going to hear how you work with people just like them in your Facebook posts, and they're going to see it when they're on your website, and then they're going to have it be reiterated to them when they download something, and then again when you email them. So that consistent elevator pitch in one sentence, I help who to do what so that they can benefit is incredibly, incredibly important. So make sure that you've nailed that in all the different areas so that there's that consistency.
And that, yeah, that's a great point. I think, and that speaks to the communicating your value, at least up front, you know, when you get your first chance. That's a really good format to start to communicate your value. So the follow-up call, it's going to follow the same format. Why you're following up, what's in it for them, problem solution, how you can help. If you actually get them on the phone and you're talking to them and maybe they're like, oh, you caught me out of the blue, I'm flustered, I'm busy. It's okay to say, listen, I know you're busy. You know, I'm sure you have a lot going on. We have a lot of content. We have a lot of we have resources that it sounds like may be of interest to you. And I want to make sure it's relevant for you. So do you have 5 or 10 minutes now to talk through kind of what's going on? Or would it be better, or can I schedule time next week to call asking for permission? So it's okay to acknowledge what their challenges are and almost use that to your advantage. The point being, you want to deliver them value. You want to help them. You don't want to bug them or be annoying. But that consistency of message, what Samantha mentioned, is important in the email as well as if you do call, or even in the conversation you're having once you delivered a proposal. Being very consistent is helpful in just validating that what you say you're going to do is what you're going to do and what you can do. Okay, so you can see we have our stages, we have our milestones. Processes are here. Now, you may have more than a bullet to define a process for booking a discovery meeting or call. It may be a more robust document. My recommendation, and I've done this in my past experience, is I think documenting processes is super valuable. It's something that it's a really good project for like an intern to do. It doesn't mean it's something you have to do. It's something that, or someone else on your team can do. It's actually great to have another set of eyes who may not be as close to the process go through it. And what's even more valuable is imagine you're growing, imagine you're meeting some of your goals, imagine you're adding a new team member, or you're bringing in marketing help or a consultant. To be able to say, this is our process and have it documented is incredibly valuable to your business and to your ability to really grow and scale. So just, you know, imagine being able to say, you know, we do marketing and sales, and this is really how we do it. This is our process. These are the tools we use and the process that we use. Okay, and the last step, and I would not take this one lightly, there's no point in building process just to build process. In my experience, the most effective way to truly integrate process and integrate change within your organization is to name an owner, define ownership. So every process needs an owner. And that owner could be a person, it could be a team, it could be a technology. If it is a technology, you are going to want to define it up front. You're going to want to test it. You are going to want to know who to go to if something isn't working, and inherently that happens. But defining ownership isn't only going to be helpful in executing on your pipeline and on your sales process. It's going to really empower your team. It's going to giving ownership over something to someone, getting the most out of your most expensive resource, which are your people. Having them buy in and have skin in the game and be able to inform what you're doing with your sales and marketing is going to provide, it's going to really multiply your efforts. So if you aren't already defining ownership, which can be done in a job description, it can be done in your process documents, it can be done on the process outline that we're providing. Putting a name to a process is a really powerful way to actually ensure that it gets done.
I just wanted to give a quick tip that I learned from Taylor Schulte, who some of you might know from Define Financial. We did a webinar with him back in April, and he mentioned one of the processes that they've built in, talking about ownership, Shauna, is that whenever a lead books on his calendar or one of the other team members' calendars, their admin will go and send a series of emails as the days are leading up. Like first they'll research the lead and make sure that person's qualified. And then depending on what they find, they send that person an email saying, you know, we typically work with people that are, and then they have like their minimum threshold, what those people are looking for help wise. And then they'll say, just want to make sure that this, you know, sounds like you and that we're the right fit before we even hop on a call. And, you know, we don't want to waste anybody's time, kind of a thing. And so he said, like a small percentage, but a certain number of people, you know, don't even go through just based on that. So it's helping to qualify the leads. If you get a really robust marketing machine going, you might start getting more and more meetings booked without ever even talking to somebody, which is great. That's great inbound. Right. But it's also nice to, you know, have an owner for that. So his admin helps him do that. So I thought that was a great tip. If you really start to get tons of inbound leads, which is a great problem for all of us to have, to even think about how you can qualify people without even talking to them on the phone. Again, just creating more of a systemic process.
Yeah, that's a great idea. And I think to your point, the reality is most people have a lot more potential and a lot more capability than they maybe are using. And it's great to use the team you already have. That makes a lot of sense. Okay, so you can see in the document, you have your stages, your milestone, your processes, and your owners. And again, your owners could be a person, they could be a team, they could be a technology. Okay, so I mentioned metrics and how important it is to get feedback. And if you have a CRM, a lot of these metrics are going to be built in, and there's probably going to be more, but these are the ones that I know are essential when you're using a pipeline to capture in the opportunity. And this doesn't need to take a lot of time. It typically happens in the beginning when you're qualifying someone, and then it may happen at the end. You'll make some updates. But the things that matter, the things you're going to want to capture, whether it's you, whether it's you somehow capture it with an intake form later on, or your team does it, you're going to want to capture first the name of the opportunity, of course, the client, the prospect, the family, the name of it. But then you're going to want to understand the pipeline amount, so the opportunity amount, the investable asset amount. You're going to want to, if you have different business models, if you do advisory and project-based fees or different fee models, you're going to want to capture the engagement type. You're definitely going to want to capture when they got into the pipeline from a sales perspective. So when did they actually become a lead, like an unqualified lead, someone who's reached out to you? When are you starting to do the selling? And then when do you close that opportunity? When do they become a client? You're going to want to capture the stage that they're in. Again, we know through the process, we understand when they move from one stage to the next. So you're going to want to understand which stage they're in. And especially if you have multiple people potentially touching this prospect or their proposal, and you're using a CRM or some other tool, this is how you start to communicate across your team. 5 and 6 are nice to haves, not need to haves, but if you can have a way to aggregate activity, I actually know Lead Pilot does this with their marketing engagement, which is really, I think, interesting, seeing what they've done as far as engaged with your website or your marketing. It could also be with your team, so meetings, calls, attending events, that sort of thing. And then what is the next step? And again, the next step should be clear based on how you've defined your process. So if they booked a meeting, the next step is, obviously you have the meeting, the next step is going to be to, if you qualify them, is going to be to gather their financial documentation, to start gathering, doing a deeper discovery meeting to gather the information you need for the proposal. So that could be an example. And the last and really important metric you're going to want to capture is the source. So source being, is it a referral? Is it from your website? Is it from, you can get granular, but you could keep it high level. Is it from an advertising campaign? Is it from your website? Is it, where is it coming from? Because at the end of the day, you're going to want to understand what's working and what's not. And you're going to want to do more of what's working, and you're going to want to either stop or maybe refine other efforts, if you're putting effort into sales, if it's not generating ultimately clients or leads at least. Okay, and then again, if you're capturing those metrics, you are going to be able to start to report on things like forecasting, so inflows, expected inflows in the next 6 months, year, 3 months, length of sales cycle. So once I get a lead, what is the chance, conversion rate? So what is the chance I'm actually going to, and you'll learn this about yourself, what is the probability I'm going to convert them to client, and kind of what's a realistic expectation as to how long that's going to take. And health of pipeline. So when I look out to the future, do I have enough in my pipeline to get to where I want to go with my goals? And if not, what do I need to do? Do I need to ramp up my marketing? Am I having referral conversations? Do I need to be doing more of that? Is there something not working with my marketing or on my website? What's going on? Now, if you're managing a team and multiple people are responsible for development, this is where you're going to start to understand who's having success and who's not. And it's going to be helpful to understand why are they having success, or what can I do to support, or what can they do to tweak, maybe if they're not having success, what they're doing. So it's going to start to give you helpful information if you are managing a team of people.
One thing I just want to mention here too is that if you have, goals such as, which we all should, that you want to have a pipeline of X because you want to get so many leads. What's really great about this data is if you know that you need to onboard 5 new clients every year, when you start to do these metrics, you'll be able to see, okay, I need to have 100 people in my pipeline, and over the course of the year, 5 of them will convert. I'll have a 5% rate, or maybe your conversion rate's 50%. And so once you know that, then you know how much pipeline you'll need to have. Whenever you are setting any goals, marketing, sales, one of the things I find people do a lot, they'll come to our company and they'll say, we need to get 100 new leads this year. But the way that you really need to think about it is not to set the goal of I need 100 leads, but to break that down into smaller incremental things you can control. Because you can't control getting 100 leads. What you can control is posting content consistently, making sure everybody gets follow-up emails, making sure after a meeting that people get certain documents on time, making sure you respond within 24 hours. So it's much better to create those tangible things that you and your team can control to work towards those goals, rather than just have this big broad goal of I need X number of clients. And so the more data you have, the more you can create those tangible action items. And that's really helped our team. So I just wanted to mention that anytime there's a goal that you can't control on your list, you need to break that down into action items that you actually have some control over.
Yeah, that's really well said. I totally agree. I think it's easy to get overwhelmed with these big goals. Yeah, breaking it down and just focusing on what you can control right now, today, tomorrow. Those are the things that really do drive progress and success. So that's great advice. And I agree. I've had the same experience in my business as well, as focusing on the small daily things versus the big ones that big goals I can't control. So yeah, these analytics too, if you aren't doing some regular review of your business, so whether it's quarterly, monthly, at least quarterly, looking at KPIs being key performance indicators. If you aren't understanding what are the things that I need to keep my eye on as the business owner to know if I'm on track or not. Again, we need to be doing these daily things, these weekly things, but are they impacting? Are they helping me make progress towards the bigger goals? The reality is growth is certainly not linear, but effort can be. And so it's important to be doing those daily things, and also to be checking in at some regular increments to understand the impact of the activities. Okay, so that is largely the content I had. Again, the one thing, if you take one thing out of this discussion, I hope it's the impact that persistence can have in your ability to move someone from lead to client. Really, I mean, you don't have to be the greatest salesperson in the world, but if you do the right things, the right follow-up consistently, and you're adding value consistently, you will make the most out of your marketing. You will shorten sales cycle. You will convert more. You will gain efficiency if you're using process and you're defining it. And you will improve the experience for definitely the prospects and clients, but probably for you and your team as well. And the impact is intentional growth. So I hope that this was helpful, and I hope that you feel like you have something to take away, and I'm excited to see if there's some questions that we can answer.
Yeah, so if you want to stop sharing your screen, I'm going to share mine, and then you can go through some of the questions that came in.
Okay.
And while we're looking those over, I'm just going to show the thing we mentioned about how you can qualify leads in Lead Pilot quickly, because we had some people asking about that. So let me show that first. And one of the questions that did come in was if you have any recommendations of what you've seen work better than others and how people title the discovery call, whether it's free portfolio review, or schedule your complimentary call with our team, or are you on track to retire? I have some thoughts, but I didn't know if you had a particular title that you've seen work better than others, Shauna.
So I'm sorry, I was reading the question. Say that one more time.
The question is if you have a particular recommendation for how people can title the discovery call.
Okay.
So whether it's, book a time to talk with us, or get a free portfolio review, or are you on track to retire? Let's find out. What have you seen maybe work really well?
So, I mean, what I've seen work really well, and I use it in my own business, and I think and you can use it in any business, is really like, thank you for reaching out. I'm really interested to get to know more about you and your situation. I want to better understand if we may be able to help. Schedule a call. You can name it an introductory call, it's what I name it. But I would probably not overthink it and just be genuine. And, I want to get to know you. I want to understand what's going on. I want to understand if I can help. So introductory call.
So yeah, for the email follow-up, I agree. I think it's, that's a good approach. I think the question was more about like on a landing page or on your website. And there,
Gotcha.
I think the best practice is to think about who you target. So again, if you're targeting pre-retirees, and are you on track to retire correctly, or let's see how your portfolio will stand up, is a good kind of a label. But if you have multiple niche groups, then you might want to have multiple landing pages with calls to actions for each, and that what you call that would be different, right? So for young families, it might be like a free budgeting check-in. So you can have different calls to action for each. Some people who are really young, honestly, like the performance of their portfolio, they know they're not retiring for 30 some years, isn't as crucial to them in this moment as, am I saving enough for my kids' education? So it will depend upon, of course, which is an annoying answer, I know, but who you're working with. So if you're looking for a good lead qualification tool, if you go into Lead Pilot, I did that really quick while we were all talking, but basically in the contacts section, you can search a name, or, the name of a person that you want to find. I'm going to search myself here. And if you click this view edit button, and then you click profile insights, this is where, again, we're scraping the web to find any publicly available information. So we'll pull in that person's physical location. So I'm here in Happy Valley, where Penn State's located. So you can see it says State College, Pennsylvania, how old the person is. This is got a small little margin of error. So I'm 34. It says I'm 22 to 32. So keep that in mind. It's giving you like a generalization based upon what data we can pull, but you can see social media accounts, websites if we can find it, bio information, job history. So this can really help you with, again, that qualification. And then under the contact details, you can rate the leads yourself and qualify them here if you want. So depending on what CRM you're using and what lead qualification tools, that's there for you. Additionally, you'll see in Lead Pilot that every lead has a lead score. Now, this lead score is powered by AI, and it's based upon how engaged people are with your content. So the more somebody is reading your content, opening your emails, engaging with you and what you're sharing, the higher their lead score is going to go towards the scale of 100. So this is a really great snapshot. You can filter by lead score, and then you can also give the tool feedback on a particular lead to make their score go up or down. Now, if you want to see what somebody is reading, you can go down the history tab, and then that's where you can see for any one individual prospect what emails you've sent versus what they're opening and what they're clicking. So you can see this prospect got the week in perspective, which is like a stock market summary, but they didn't open the email. But the one on our COVID-19 losses covered by insurance, they not only opened it, but they clicked the link to finish reading the article. So you can really get a great sense of what content people are most interested in reading in that contact history. The other thing I wanted to point out when we were talking a little bit about drip marketing. So once you get a lead, Shauna shared that cadence for you. So you can see in here, you can build out custom campaigns, or you can use our curated campaigns. So for instance, if you have a list of leads that all came from a webinar you gave, you can build a post-webinar email drip. So everybody who went to the webinar gets this email drip. Day one, they're going to get this email. Day two, they get the next email. And then you can schedule it out on whatever cadence you want at any length. And every time somebody attends this webinar, you add their name to this contact list, and then they're going to be put in this drip. So it really allows you to set this up again for that automation to make it easier and easier to drip on people. And then the last thing I just wanted to show you, if you're not using Lead Pilot, so of course it has all these great capabilities in terms of processes, but we also do have some really great content. I'm just going to filter here by trending topics because the pandemic is so top of mind. And so you can see, you have all this great content. You can choose any piece of content, which is great. You can send it off as a one-off. You can send it to a particular list of people, or you can choose. So, maybe you only want to send it to business owners, or you only want to send it to people that are under 40, and you don't want to post it on Twitter or Facebook or LinkedIn. You only want to email it. So you can really customize all of this, and it will all be branded with your information. And then as people read this content or engage with this content, you can decide what subscriber list you want them to go to. So if they do engage with it, where are they going? So again, if somebody fills this out, you don't need to manually go add them to a list. You can just choose which list they will automatically go to. So just streamlining processes, making it easier to go from marketing to selling, and making that as seamless as possible. And that was a really quick high-level overview. I know we don't have much time. Shauna, were there some questions? There's some other questions you have. We can stay on and answer them. I just did want to mention, if you want to learn more about 20 over 10 or any of our products, you can go to 20over10.com and click this schedule a demo button. And you can learn more about websites, our marketing coaches, our Lead Pilot tool, and all that information is there for you. So thank you so much for that. But Shauna, I'll let you go through and let us know if there's any other questions we didn't get to answer that we can take a stab at.
Yeah, there's a couple questions in here, and I did type some answers, but for the group. So how do you track subscribers to inbound marketing campaigns? I don't know the people yet and haven't had conversations. So those would be unqualified leads. If you just have an email address, you're going to just follow up with their email. Obviously, if you're using a tool like Lead Pilot, you're going to try to get some more information. You can definitely try to find some more information about them by just searching for using their email address online, but they will be unqualified. And I would recommend, another question that relates is kind of what's the cadence of following up. I would recommend definitely following up within 24 hours or very quickly after you get the inbound lead. But consider having a 3 to 5 email, at least 3 to 5 email campaign over 2 weeks. So the cadence I like to use, so let's say Monday I get the lead. So I email them Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then Tuesday, Thursday of the next week. If you have their phone number, I would give them a call a couple times, but I would say at least 3 to 5 emails over 2 weeks. If you hear nothing from them, chances are you'll at least get an answer. But if you hear nothing from them, you may consider putting them into a monthly, if you have a newsletter or some other content, like you may want to consider having it be less frequent, but putting them into some other kind of content journey or content delivery platform that you have.
We call that a nurture here. So if somebody comes and they're a really great lead, and then we try to get in touch with them and they go quiet on us, we put them in a nurture campaign. So every month they might get invited to a webinar like this, or they might get a great piece of blog content. And then after 6 months, we set a task to check in with them and just say, has anything changed? And we do the 1-sentence email then where we say, are you still interested in getting help with marketing? Or, just 1 sentence, that's it, to just try to get a response to re-engage them.
Right. Yeah. Because the goal is at the end of the day, you want to qualify people and ultimately you want a yes or a no. If it's yes, great, you're going to quickly act. But if it's no, you also want to understand why not,
And often it's
especially if they
not right
go,
now. It's not always like a
exactly,
no 100%. It's just not right now.
exactly, exactly. But yeah, I
Shauna,
don't
because
see
we
any
don't have
other
much
questions.
time left, can you tell everybody, I know we had that other slide, but just remind everybody how they can get in touch with you. We'll send all the slides out so they'll have your email address, but if someone's chomping at the bit to reach out to you today, how can they get in touch with you?
Thanks. Yeah, the best way to get in touch with me is my website, which is shaunamace.com. So my name. The other way I would, encourage you to connect with me on LinkedIn. I do share a decent amount of content. My goal is try to do at least three value add content sharing a week on LinkedIn. So please reach out on LinkedIn as well and connect with me.
All right, awesome. Well, thank you everybody so much. I hope you all found this really helpful, going beyond, the marketing and into more of the science of selling. And again, you will get, Shauna's been so generous and she's going to give us that great template as well as those email templates for all of you to use. So if you are looking for someone to really help you amplify your growth trajectory, you're looking for a coach that can help you, build pipeline and sell more and really work on those qualities that it can take. I know a lot of people or we call accidental CEOs. They didn't necessarily sign up to run a whole business and they get uncomfortable with selling or some of the processes. I highly encourage you to reach out to Shauna. And Shauna, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing all of this great wisdom with everyone.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure. I appreciate
All
it.
right. Thanks, everybody. Take care.
Thanks. Bye.